Faithful, welcome back to the 49ers First and 10 podcast, presented by Cisco. I'm your host, Brianna McDonald, joined by 49ers team reporter, Lindsay Polaris. I really like what Kyle Shanahan had to say about his offense and how he sees it for this upcoming season. We still have core players like George Kittle, Trent Williams hopefully coming back this season, healthy and ready to go. Brock Purdy, obviously, maybe their contract signing coming up this offseason. Brandon Ayuk with his health. But what did he have to say about that free agency signing we have with Luke Ferrell and how important he is to this offense and how Kyle Shanahan designs around him?
Yeah, so what we heard Kyle Shanahan say was that Luke Ferrell is one of the better blocking tight ends in the league, and to see that he became available and they were able to get him at a pretty good price is something that they were very excited about. I think someone that they were really happy with as a blocking tight end was Charlie Warner. He left to the Atlanta Falcons at the end of that 2023 season. He said that Eric Saubert did some really good things last season, but they're really, really excited about having somebody that has made a name for himself in terms of blocking in this league, and that guy is Luke Ferrell. He's on a 3-year deal. That is the longest of the free agency contracts we've seen this offseason, so stay tuned. I know the 49ers are very excited about him.
Yeah, he really emphasized the point of we're going up against competitive defenses. And so having Luke Ferrell become that blocking tight end, it makes space for George Kittle to get out and be an option for Brock Purdy. So we're excited to see how those two work together in this upcoming offense. But it also gives a bit of a nugget for how the Niners are looking at this year's draft and designing around specific players. We saw it in the previous years with Deebo Samuel, drafting him to the Niners, and he was a unique player. So how did Kyle Shanahan use him in the 49ers system? We can see that with Christian McCaffrey coming into the fold. The offense changed, and that was dynamic around him. It is dynamic around George Kittle. We can see how that worked with Ricky Pearsall. But what did Kyle Shanahan have to say about picking the best players available in this upcoming draft and how those players can help influence the Niners scheme in this upcoming year?
I think one of the things, especially as we were talking about Luke Ferrell, is that the Niners are happy to have a little bit of depth now at that tight end position, because I do think the focus of this draft is shifting a little bit for the Niners. I think especially in 2022 and 2023, the Niners were very much drafting for the future because they had these established veterans, these high-paid veterans, some of which left this offseason that were in those starting roles. So the 49ers have, I guess there's just a focus on finding starters, people that can contribute immediately, because right now there are areas of need pretty much up and down the defense and in certain spots like the offensive line on the other side of the ball. So I do think the draft is going to very much be that lifeblood that we've heard it be for the Niners. They are looking for contributors that will impact this team immediately, and it's very helpful that they have 11 picks, tied for most in the league, and they're planning on making good use of each and every one of those picks.
Yeah, and we saw a little bit of that last year with Dominic Puni. He became a starter right away for the team. Ricky Pearsall got his way into the fold very soon for the team, and so did Isaac Rendo. Kyle Shanahan praised him and how hard he ran throughout the season and how that was a really good sign for the 49ers offense and how he will be used in this upcoming season. So I think for the faithful, last year's draft could be a really cool preview to what this year's draft could look like in finding those players who are ready to go. A huge emphasis from Jed York, Kyle Shanahan, and John Lynch are just getting those players who are ready to go, making the team younger, healthier, and stronger. That's been the really big point of emphasis throughout the offseason, and I'm really excited to see how that unfolds in the draft. Lindsay, was there anything else mentioned from Jed York or Kyle Shanahan that you really want the faithful to know heading into this next year?
A couple other updates. We saw Brian Fleury, who is the 49ers tight ends coach. He will have a new title added to his name. He is going to be the run game coordinator for 2025. This is something he's been contributing to for a while, according to head coach Kyle Shanahan. So he's just getting the official title now. Also, when it comes to special teams, obviously the 49ers now have a new special teams coordinator. They've made a change at the long snapper position. And in terms of kickers, they are going to be bringing in a veteran kicker to compete with Jake Moody. During training camp, no one has been signed yet, but Shanahan did say that Boyer has been exploring the opportunities that there are across the league, going to kicking camps. So the 49ers are in the market for a veteran kicker.
This kicking competition is going to be serious in training camp. and they're going to be bringing in a player with veteran experience who's going to be competing with Jake Moody. And they mentioned it's going to be a serious competition because Jake Moody is going to respect this veteran kicker, and it's going to make it very serious. And so having that unfold and having that pressure on both players and who's going to make the cut is going to eventually breed diamonds like we see in training camp and preseason. So definitely a few updates on special teams there. Lindsay, I've gotten a few questions throughout this offseason on, are the 49ers in a rebuilding stage, just because they've seen a lot of our big players get signed elsewhere. And I think what we've heard from Kyle, Jed, and John is that it's not necessarily a rebuilding stage because the 49ers have those core Hall of Fame style players. You see with Trent Williams, Fred Warner, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, the list goes on. They mentioned they wanted to eventually get Juice up on that 10-year wall, which is a goal for them and the team. But they've recognized that this team is also getting older. They saw a lot of injuries in the 2024 season, and so they want to harp on the fact of getting younger and healthier, like we mentioned earlier in the podcast. So how does that dynamic between keeping those core players and then bringing in that new lifeblood in the draft make a mix for the 49ers mindset heading into this next year?
I think it all comes down to what we've heard a lot mentioned during the annual league meeting is that it comes down to math, right? Mm-hmm. The 49ers have been fortunate to have found the draft gem of 2022 in Brock Purdy, and having a rookie quarterback really does create that financial freedom to keep those future first ballot Hall of Famers, those real established veterans, the Pro Bowlers, the All-Pro players on your roster for as long as possible. But now the mix just has to look a little bit different, right? We heard Jed York talk about how certain, and we heard this echoed by John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan as well, how certain they are that Brock Purdy is their guy. So when you decide that about a quarterback, eventually the paycheck has to come, right? The 49ers and Brock Purdy are trying to get this deal done this offseason if it all works out the way everybody wants it to. And so there, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, sacrifices have to be made, right? There is a very real cap limit to what each NFL team can spend. So it's about creating space for this quarterback that you are very, very confident in, that is the future of your franchise, and also finding pieces that work around him so that he has the offensive weapons, and you also have a formidable defense on the other side of the ball that, you know, can create this, you know, perfect team, right? And it's not perfect for everybody. So it's not a rebuilding year, but the 49ers have to find pieces that they can't necessarily go and spend big money on everybody. They want to find those pieces in the draft this year, and not to say that they don't want to find them in the draft every year, but there is again a shift in focus on who they are looking for in the draft and when they're going to be able to contribute. So I think, like you mentioned, health of the prospects is going to play a big role, how ready they are, and you know how ready they can come into camp and compete for a spot. And one thing Kyle Shanahan did say, this is probably going to be one of the most competitive training camps. So, you know, you see who those diamonds are once they come out of the competition, and that will all unfold after these picks are made in the draft.
Yeah. Kyle Shanahan mentioned that he is going to make this team better every day that he can during the offseason. Right now, the focus is on the draft. How excited are you for this upcoming tentpole event?
I think it's a big deal, and you know, I think I want to emphasize not rebuild, it's a reconfiguration, right? Mm-hmm. The pieces are going to look a little different. But one thing about roster building is that it goes on the entire year, right? You want to get the best team you can ready for week one, and then there's still a trade deadline halfway through the season. And this front office and coaching staff works tirelessly to make sure they can stay competitive every step of the way. Roster building is a year-long process. It does not end in the offseason, and there's going to be more updates, which is why you want to stay subscribed to the First and 10 podcast.
Yes, Faithful, subscribe to First and 10 presented by Cisco on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Turn on those breaking news notifications for any Move the Chains updates. And Faithful, we'll see you next time.
Mm-hmm.